morning, Squadron, and welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief. Today is September 30th, last day of not only the month, but of the quarter. Get this tone down here. Casual Wednesday for me. Hopefully it is for you as well. What we have this morning for our brief, make sure you have your Q&A window set up and your chat window set up appropriately, and we'll be ready to go. If you're catching us on replay, make sure you subscribe to the On Time, On Target YouTube channel. And if you want to join us in the morning, it's only $25 a month to come into the room and join us with your ideas. We have a chat window for you to put your ideas. We have a Q&A window to put your questions. I will make sure that I will get that. Thanks, Burner, for video. Had no sound. Well, that's not good. Maybe it's because I have my AirPods in. Thanks for that. I will check on the replay and see if it actually has sound. Jumper, you were on early. Did you get sound with the video or no sound? Thanks for answering that. All right, everybody else, if you want to join the squadron, got quite a few of us in here this morning. Again, it's $25 to reach out to me at steve@ototnow.com, and I'll get you on a free trial so you can check it out. All right, for our objectives today, Standard Fighter Pilot Morning Brief. Mission objectives to grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Exciting day today in the market. If you've been following along with all of the hype along with the Palantir direct listing, you know we talked about them yesterday. We're going to talk more about them today. And I've got it pulled up on a side chart over here. I did anyway. I'm going to put it back because it blanked out. I did have tech issues earlier, so if you see anything goofy, please sing out. So we have Palantir. So today we're talking about growing our money in a high-risk IPO type scenario. It's not an IPO. It's a direct listing. So same sort of thing. The ticker is going to go live at some point. Most IPOs go around noon or 1 o'clock Eastern. This one may start at any point in time, so that's why I have the tickers up. I actually have market order in for a couple of folks out there to get at least a few shares, and we'll see. We'll go from there. Excuse me, sorry about the throat there. All right, Asana is also a software company that has a direct listing that's going today too. I'm not as excited about Asana, but they're both Peter Thiel companies, and we're going to talk about Peter Thiel today. All right, our question of the day is, what does data is the new oil mean and how to invest in it? And you're like, yeah, I heard that yesterday. Well, you get to hear it again. Actually, you don't get to hear it again, because I will encourage you right before I go on that diatribe, because it was about 15 minutes long. I didn't record yesterday. So all that trying to get the video to play and then the screen and the welcome, all of that, it did not record. So I did not get that part out. So you're going to hear it again because I'm recording that to repurpose it into the podcast, assuming my voice holds up. All right. So we're going to repeat on that. You can listen in if you want. Throw your ideas in the chat if you want to add some color to what I talked about yesterday. All right. So for our flow today, it's going to be long, short, open, short, long. What that means, we're going to do our standard market review. We're going to go around the world. We're going to check out the futures, which are now, they're not quite in the green. They peaked into the green for a little while. So we had the debate last night. Big futures down big off of the schoolyard exchange. We had the three-way exchange, right? When you have the moderator hopping in on the debate, it's kind of funny. I did not watch it. I caught the headlines though. Highlights, excuse me. So we're gonna go around the market. We'll do headline review, talk about that we got a good jobs number this morning. We got a GDP number that wasn't as bad as expected. So those are both propping the market up. But it is the last day of the quarter, so window dressing is going on by money managers because they have to publish at the end of each month. So, or excuse me, at the end of each quarter. So you can expect to see some big moves in the market there. All right. For our long-term investments, there's the new tickers. If you want in on these, there's a couple ways to do it. They will, unlike an IPO, where it won't accept the ticker till the thing actually opens, you can go in right now. If you want in on Palantir or Asana, you can go in and put an order in. Now, obviously, it's pre-market, and it's not going to open till during the market day, but you can put the order in. Palantir is supposed to open at 7:25. I put a limit order in at 25. That's how much I think this thing's going to scream higher. I think the absolute first tick is going to probably be up in the 15s, and it'll end up in the 20 within a fraction, 20s of fractions of a second. So I actually hope to get shares somewhere in the low 20s. Kind of crazy. Thanks, Jumper, for that. But just confirm there was no music earlier when the video was played. I want to make sure what I have is going out correctly. Okay. So that's how you can do that. Again, you can put a limit order so you aren't buying anything. Market order will just get filled, whatever. Remember, if you have a super high limit, it becomes a market, but you're at least protected against a pop in that. If you aren't really, if it's not a must own, if the shares you buy today, you should probably keep for 20 years. So even if it does a Facebook, doubles, crashes, you're going to hold these shares. So don't buy an inordinate amount to where you're going to freak out and have to sell them, right? Asana is going to be doing the same thing. I will be picking up a few shares of that as well. Okay, we'll get into our short-term day trade executing. I'm going to start keeping tabs on the week, and starting tomorrow, if I can do it, I have to practice some switchology tonight. Is up to this point, I've not been taking my own trades. I've only been calling them. So I'm going to try to take them from now on. I'm going to have a separate laptop because I don't want all my account numbers going out to the free world and everything. So I'm going to do it on a separate laptop. We'll get to the price of Asana here in just a second. Burner, good question. But I am going to actually be taking my trades, at least the long ones, because the switchology is super easy with the long ones. So you're going to hear me probably talking a little bit less, a more silent time, because I'm going to be, and you'll see my head go down, obviously, because you can see my picture. That's when I'm actually typing to get the order in. But for keeping the score for the week, we had a 6R day on Monday with plug and shell, 11 minutes and 1 minute accordingly. And then yesterday, I don't remember what it was because I erased my memory when we lose an R of whatever that is. So we were down 1R. So we're +5 on the week. So I'll start keeping track of that for everybody. Again, you don't have to follow along. You don't have to do what I do. But if you choose to, do it in a paper account first to make sure your fingers are warmed up. That's like being in the simulator for pilots out there. And then when you think you're ready to go real time, just be ready to go, and slow, steady, and deliberate with your ticker entry and know what you're doing. So contingencies, if you have any tech issues like up here we had this morning with sound, I'll troubleshoot that. Maybe I can't use my AirPods with that video. We'll see. Reach out to me at steve@ototnow.com, and I have staff standing by to handle your questions and get that taken care of. And then, of course, the standard disclaimer, this is a financial education presentation. I don't know your personal situation, so you need to do your own due diligence before you act on the things you hear this morning. All right, let's take a look at the TD Ameritrade screen. This is ThinkPipes or Thinkorswim for those at home. We are also in the fourth quarter, which it starts tomorrow. That's when originally Schwab and TD Ameritrade had planned their merger. Again, everybody's going to Schwab as far as your accounts. However, they're going to keep the Thinkorswim platform, which is better than the Street Smart Edge that we use. So that's a good thing. Okay, let's take a look at where we've been. Obviously, you know the history of the year. We kind of dipped out of channel all the way down to touching 320 or so. We kind of moved up big from there, and then yesterday was pretty much a nothing. It seemed worse than it was. So this was yesterday, so it started up a little bit like, hey, we're going to have a good day. Then it went down, then it was back up and down, whatever. Pretty much just a middling kind of day. And then here's the debate took off after the market was closed last night. So mudslinging. It's not really the mudslinging of the candidates, but it's the kind of effect that it's going to have on getting stimulus passed this week. Which again, Pelosi was talking already this morning positively about getting stuff passed. Mnuchin is on CNBC right now working hard on a bipartisan aid proposal is the headline if you have that up. So yeah, I think that the adults are going to try to get something passed this week. We shall see. All right, over to earnings. We had Micron last night, and Micron beat earnings and just sold off. So that's kind of the story of Micron. Can't do anything right, it seems. So it sold off. It dropped below 50, I believe. So I may be looking at picking up some today if it continues to sell off. It's about the only thing on my short list, and I do not like it for going short. So, but we will keep an eye on it while we're here. All right, let's take a look at the headlines, and I'll get to your question about Asana here in a second. So let's come down to CNBC.com, take a look. We'll do a quick refresh and see where we are as far as the futures. So pretty close to even, slightly down. Again, we were down 300 when I woke up a couple hours ago, went all the way to the green and then went back. So that's what that is doing. Asia is mixed across the board. Nothing to report there. Europe was dead red, slightly in the red across the way earlier. England, there we go. England is up in the green. Here are our numbers from yesterday. Overall, it was a lot worse, so it kind of trended better into the close. No big deal. VIX hanging out around 26. Bonds, not much has changed. Creeping up a little bit there. Oil fell out of the 40 to 60 range. Nothing to really get super concerned about. Just keeping an eye on. Again, with the data is the new oil. That's all everybody's talking about right now. So that's gonna hit oil prices. It just is. And there's not much going on in the precious metals, except for that's interesting, right? Gold set for the worst month in 4 years. When that's why you don't bet everything on the markets, right? You don't try to outsmart the markets. You just try to navigate them wisely. But you plan for, remember, the big 5 different scenarios: up big, up a little bit, even, down a little bit, down big, and make sure you don't get hurt with the worst of those scenarios. So what if you were the person who knows everything about investing, which means you probably know very little if you think that, and you're not a good student of the game, and you in August said, I'm going to go all in on gold. Yep, worst month in 4 years. There you go. So good for you, smarty pants. So you don't go all in on stuff, even when it's a sure thing, if you will. All right, let's quick refresh, go around our headlines. You know about the debate. Don't know if there was a clear winner. Both sides will probably try to claim victory. I thought, and this is, don't shoot me here, but I thought Biden actually held his ground a lot better than I expected. So it was more of a debate than I thought. I thought it was just going to be Trump bludgeoning him to pieces. So he prepared well, or his handlers did. So stood his ground. So we shall see. Here's our jobs number this morning. Came in at 749. We expected, I think, 700. So that was good. However, there's a couple of super negative headlines. 28,000 laid off at Disney, and there's another couple of layoffs that are going to come out here. The airlines are going to be hit hard. Their stimulus runs out today, so it went through September 30th. So a lot of them have said, and I'm putting them down in my notes to check some of the airline stocks this morning. They're going to start furloughing and in mass levels. And I have a couple of flights that I booked in the past week or so. One to Vegas and then another one to the state of Washington for volleyball. And they're thin. It's not the normal. You have 50 choices. Even with Southwest, it's thin compared to what it was. So, all right, let's see what else we have. Mortgage demand falls. That has not happened in recent history. So most people have gotten their refi in. Again, looking at 6 to 8 weeks instead of the normal 4 weeks there. Here was the other data. The economy plunged 31.4%, but it was expected, I think, to be 33%. So that's one of those, good news stories, better than expected. Here you go. There's Peter Thiel. We're going to talk about him in a second. But yeah, this is the direct listing that we have going on today. So we'll watch those with excitement. There will be lots of money made. Yeah, I saw this earlier, and they didn't provide. I wanted a video, right? Paris rocked by fighter jet breaking the sound barrier as it should. Well, probably not over Paris or any major cities, but you do have to appreciate that sometimes. But it said actually that it was shattered windows and the birds took to the air. And I chuckled and went, "That's the best you got? Birds took to the air." I bet they did. So anyway, somebody's obviously talking to their commander this morning and maybe turning in their little wings for whatever stunt that was. So we shall see. That's a big mess up. And it hardly happened by accident, right? New York opening back up for dining. That's somewhat normality. I didn't see a headline, but I will talk about the NFL. I think, and I don't hear a lot about this on CNBC, but I think it's more of a mainstream media thing, is the NFL kind of carries the weight of the Americans right now as far as reopening and dealing with COVID. So, yesterday from the Tennessee-Minnesota game this weekend, several, 5, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there, players and trainers popped positive for COVID, got retested, confirmed positive. So it wasn't just one test. That went down. So the immediate wonder yesterday is what kind of reaction are we going to have if they push the games that they have scheduled, obviously different opponents, if the NFL was going to slide those, if the NFL was going to pause for 3 weeks. The Arizona Diamondbacks, I think, was the baseball team that paused. what are we going to do? Because whatever the NFL does, the colleges just have to do. And, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 just came off the sidelines and said, we're going to start because everybody else did. So the NFL stood its ground and said games are going to go as scheduled. Obviously, the individual players have to go into the protocols, but it's the team's problem to put talent out on the field, even if they have to pick up some new talent. So I kind of thought that was a mature way of handling the situation and an overall good sign for us moving past the COVID-19 lockdown issues, if you will. All right, there's a Prime Day coming up. We'll talk to that as it gets closer. They're shell cutting 9,000 jobs. We talked about the Disney jobs, and there was one more jobs, but I don't see it. But it was pretty big number. But since I can't find it, we don't get it. All right, let's talk about these IPOs. Excuse me, the direct listings. So real quick, like I talked about yesterday, an IPO. Palantir goes to Goldman Sachs and says, hey, we want an IPO. Okay, we want to raise this many billions. They figure out the number of shares. They figure out the price. This is months before the IPO. The Goldman folks go out to all the investors, not little leaguers like me with a little T and a little bat, but the big league folks, and try to push these shares and say, hey, just like you saw on the movies, I need you to verbally commit to this many thousand shares and $1,000 and all this blah, 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 blah. So don't get to play in that game yet. Maybe someday. We'll see. I'd like to. We'll see what kind of jersey I earn over the years. But that does not go on with a direct listing. A direct listing is the company works with an investment bank to figure out the number of shares and chop all the QSIPs and blah, 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 blah. But then the company then slowly releases the float onto the market on release day. So there you go. It's all over the Twitterverse this morning of what time's this thing open, and nobody's got an answer. So I don't think it's going to open right at 8:30. That's local, 9:30 Eastern, of course. But we'll see. I have it open, and we'll for day trading, we'll obviously pop. And I see those move. We'll switch the screen to at least Palantir and see what's going on. All right. So here we are with the direct listing. The price is set at $7.25. Ha ha, laugh, laugh. What does that mean? It's absolutely meaningless, other than it's going to show some ridiculous gain. Let's see if it talks about this in here. No shares change hands at this price. It acts as a guide to investors, right? No, whatever the first person's willing to pay is, and of course the company is going to sell to push these shares out, right? So at $7.25, I would bet the absolute first tick, what did I say earlier? Probably double that, 15. First tick, probably 15. That's my guess. We'll see. If anybody gets it below that, then they get a heck of a deal. All right. Here's the how many billions, blah, blah, blah. There's the 3 share classes. Don't worry about any of that nonsense, but it is truly set up in a nonsensical way, if you ask me. All right. That is Palantir. Asana, which we didn't talk about yesterday, so we should probably, there's your price burner. So a little higher price point. I don't expect it to have the action. It's also a Peter Thiel company. So there you go. You can read that if you have a screen that's big enough. Workplace management software firm. I read this earlier, and I can't get much more out of it than like Salesforce.com or Slack. Just kind of a one system does all. If you know better than me, put it in the chat if you have a better explanation. But 30 million shares are going to get dumped out. I think most people will be buying, most guys like me are going to sit around and buy all their Palantir first, get everybody set up where everybody's happy, or it gets too high and you go, okay, I'm bailing on that and I'm moving to Asana. So we shall see how both of those, but 21's a set price. So if it ends up at 42 today, it will show a 100% gain, even though we'll see. All right, let's talk about, we'll save that for later. I will talk about it right now. We talked a little bit about just this process since I had it highlighted for you. The business sells shares directly to the public without the help of any intermediaries, kind of. It does not involve any underwriters. So there's no lockout period. Now that is a lockout period. That is the difference. So if you buy your shares today and you buy them at 22 and it goes to 25 and you sell them all, because that's what Steve said, don't buy over 25, and you make your thousands or millions or whatever kind of a bat you're swinging, A, good for you, but B, realize everybody can do this. So lockup periods add stability and it reduces the float again being the number of shares that can change hands. So it doesn't have that safety net built in. And also you don't have to be an accredited investor. Literally, you could be Jimmy on Robinhood today. No offense to Jimmy's out there. And just plug it in, buy, market, enter, boom, you get some shares, right? So we shall see. It'd be kind of fun to watch if you're a nerd like me and want to watch those things. All right, here's the guy we've been talking about this morning. Obviously brilliant. He appears to be a little bit older than I am, and I would probably say after reading through this morning, he does more before 8:30 in the morning than I do all year, probably. Born in Germany, came into the States at 1 year old. Stanford Law, is that right? Stanford Law, one of the laws. Yes, Stanford Law School. Yeah, lawyer, blah, 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 really smart, got all that. Switched to tech early on. So why do I bring this up? I'm excited, and that's why this data is the new oil. I'm going pretty heavy and all in. You know, all I've been talking about for 6 months is these electric vehicle names, and we've made an absolute killing in these names. I'm switching horses to the data, and I'm going pretty heavy into that as well. And that the data names are not going to care who's president, not going to care about the tax code, not going to care about jack, to be honest, other than screaming higher. So I think what we're doing right now is kind of repositioning to take advantage of that through the election. That I anticipate a market-wide sell-off. We'll stay diversified. So again, your big number is probably going to get smaller, but there's going to be very focused holdings that I'm very optimistic about. So we are kind of getting in on this like Peter Thiel got into Silicon Valley 30 years ago. So what's he been involved in? Probably most famous for Facebook. He's also a Republican. He's also homosexual, if that matters to anybody. He's a Republican, PayPal early on, one of the original founders. And then, of course, Facebook is really where I think that's where he picked up his name or became a household name. So look at this one, $500,000. You know, I'm looking at my list, and almost everybody, sorry to leave you out, buddy, you know who I'm talking about, but almost everybody has 500K in their account. Yeah, so he went as an angel investor into Facebook for 10% stake, cashed out. There's a billion number here somewhere. Blah, blah, blah. I'm missing it. Yeah, many billions, right? Whatever that ended up being worth when he finally sold those shares. Why am I not seeing it? But it's in there somewhere. Yeah, so good on him. He picked the right horse. So take note. That's what I'm trying to do. All right. And he's obviously he's got foundations and things. He's trying to do great things for the world. And this is why it surprised me he's a Republican, because he is doing a lot of, things to help society. That's generally associated with your billionaire Democrats that want universal basic income and all that stuff. So a lot of stuff you can read up on him. Obviously, he's doing great things for the United States and the world and making it a better place. All right. Let's switch over to the board. I talked a little bit long, but let's set up for our trades. So share out to you the Street Smart Edge, which the only thing to look at is PLTR and Asana across the bottom. So we'll watch those. You won't be watching it. I will. Watch those leap up if they start trading. Go to our layout. The only thing I really have to look at short is PRGS, which I don't even know what it is. Click PRGS. Progress Software doesn't have the volume, so scratch that. Let's take a look at Micron, see how it's hanging. 50 to 91, that is not all that. It's only a little bit. Don't even see it on the, there's get on the right one. So it's down a little bit, probably not enough for us to trade it. There's an RUN. I don't know what that is either. Let's get the letters in there. RUN. Sunrun. I'll call that the volume, but barely gapping down. It was gapping down earlier, so not going to really touch that. And then we'll check American Airlines, which I think is the weakest of the airlines, and see if it's gapping down. It is indeed not. It's gapping up. So, all right, I'm probably giving up on shorts. Let's see if we find anything here. Nothing in the 5 to 10 range. There's our PRGS. Low volume in the shorts, so not touching any of those. All right, for longs, let's take a look at let's look at NEO right there. See if there's a headline associated with NEO. Blink is up huge this morning too. Several underlying call options, blah, blah, blah. That's not necessarily enough for me to day trade it higher. So enough on NEO. Several pharmaceuticals, so we'll kill the other ones first. BLNK, Lawsuit out there. Remember when they did that shaming short seller came in and tried to talk smack and told a bunch of possible lies about Blink and crushed the price. So it is gapping up nicely here. So we could take that long. Not super excited about that. Okay, the other 7 we're going to look at are all pharmaceuticals. So we'll see if they have the volume. Ecor. Too small, no volume. Seal, S-E-E-L. Got the volume. Look at that low price. Okay, well, I've got it in there. EVGN. A little better on the gapping. What's 40 cents? That's right at the 10% mark. A little low on volume, but that one's okay. CRDF. Oncology, you can see down here, public offering of shares at 1350. So I don't like that, not at 1350. So we're out of that. SRGA. SRGA. If you have anything you want me to look at, put it in the chat. Volume, it does have the gap. What's that to again? 10% moving up. Deal to acquire, so it's an acquisition. So I like this. It's a little better price point. So that'll be our number 1. It's up 10% though. Duke, D-U-K, that's an energy name. So we're back out of the, so I like SRGA first, Seal second, and then we'll have Blink, BLNK in third as we set up. I was going to pull up Duke real quick. Duke. Volume, what is it moving up on? Takeover offer. So we'll see. Don't like the name though. All right, let's go to our setup with TD Ameritrade. Share that out. There's Think Pipes. Here's our 4 screens. Going long, nothing to short. Go to a 1 minute here on the SPY. All right, I said number 1 would be SRGA. These are all really small price points. Up at 469. Let's just take a look at what we've got going on here. So we'll hold that thought a second while I get the others in there. Seal, S-E-E-L. Same sort of pattern. That's interesting. And then Blink, B-L-N-K is already pulled up over here, going higher. All right. Went up to 469, been hanging around 2, so it is gapping up. All right, for a stop here, you really don't want a 10-cent stop because that means it's going to have to move all the way up to here. So we'll try to get a 5-cent stop on SRGA. We'll see. We're just going to have to watch that a second. Seal, same thing. We want a 5-cent stop. Otherwise, it's not worth taking. And then Blink. 10.50 to 40's 10 cents. So probably 10 or 15 on Blink is what I'm looking for the stop. All right, 30 seconds to go. Here we go for the on time, on target play of the day. We have the SPY pulled up in the left screen. 1 minute chart is what we're watching here. We have SRGA. This is a long name. It is actually gapping up, and even though it doesn't look like it, we'll just auto zoom that back out, but I do want to get it to a 1 minute chart. So you can see that. We'll focus in. Seal is another name following pretty much the same thing. It's a pharma play, and the Blink is an EV play. This one's a little more stable than the other 2, and it's got the higher price point. So with that, let's go ahead, and there's the opening bell. All right. Let's get focused in here. Again, long, and long. There was nothing to shorten the market. All right, SRGA was the oncology play. $2.11. All right, we can wait on that. This is already up at 115. Whoa, just look at the market, just waltzed higher. All right, pretty good resistance here at 208. So let's take it at 218 going long. There's our entry point. So we are in this trade. And we're going to use a 10-cent stop, even though I said I didn't want to. We need to, just because of the safety factor of the low of the day. So 208 is the low of the day. So this is our stop. So if it goes down and hits 208, we're going to be out. You can take more here if you get it. You get a chance to. So we're using that as our bottom side downside protection. Drop that. For what do we need for on the upside? So we need 228 would be the first R. And then 238 is 2 R's. And then we'll get to 3 R's, hopefully, if we get that. All right, already testing this right away. So not a good sign. If it hits it, we're out, and we're out. So that did not go that well. So continue to watch that one. We're still up on the week, so I'm inclined to take another trade, especially with the market going higher here. Kind of done with these small players. So let's look at Blink. It's in the heart of the envelope, 586. It's messed around here. This is a 5-minute chart. So let's get to the right chart. See what the actual action is. Ooh, I like it. 1060 will go long. Supposedly a 25-cent stop. I don't think we'll need a 25-cent stop. But get ready at 1060 for going long. Nope, there it was. So somewhere between 1060 and 1064. We're going to use a 20-cent stop. Simmer down. Okay, 20-cent stop. So I need to get that in here before we can start seeing how far it's moving up. So there's 1040. So it looks like, okay, here's our 1R point. So that's why I don't like the 20-cent stop, but we had to, just to protect ourselves from down here. All right, so we're in this trade. So we busted out of SRGA. We're not going to take seal, not going to take another one down at that low price point. We're in Blink, and I like it long. Let's take a look at some of the other names out there. Mu was a short. See what Micron is doing. Thinking more about that long term, buying it down in this range. Gonna let it chill out. Let's look over and see if Palantir or Asana are trading. Neither of them are trading. So we'll come back to this middle pane. We'll leave our shame over here and just take this middle one, see how the airlines are doing. They moved up earlier. So check that out. American defies logic that they're running out of money. Now, this could be on the fact that since they are running out of money today, that increases the likelihood of getting a stimulus, which means more money, which means they'll be good. So obviously people are taking that long. I just don't necessarily buy that thesis. All right, let's see some other names. Duke Energy was the name we were looking at long. DUK, I said I didn't like it. It is basically staying up where it was, 87. Now moved 80 cents. Not enough for a real trade there. All right, some other names. Ecor, lightly traded, up 3%. Down in the pennies there. Seal, we know about EVGN. Another pharma name, gapping up. That one, that's a pretty good setup there. Take it at 445 long with a 7-cent stop. I'm not calling that. I'm not taking that. But this is the kind of setup you're looking for something that's creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. When you see these tops right here, again, that's usually a seller. So every time it hits 444, somebody sells, so it can't go higher. Once you see it go higher out of that, then that means it's busted through that seller. That seller is exhausted. So when you talk about people trading against institutional stops, which is kind of what we're doing, I don't really bring that up much, but that's what I'm looking for is things like this. When you break higher, you tend to get a run from there. So trade just went in the red over here. So we'll see how Blink turns out. All right. PERI is another name. That was gapping up. We didn't get a chance to look at it. Only moved about 4 cents, not a lot of volume on it. So hard to play that. All right, let's look at some other names that are up out there. Alibaba is up nicely. moving higher. You know, that's a name I like. Can't really day trade it. Starbucks got a lot of love. It was up 10% yesterday. Marching up again. You look at the chart on Starbucks, though, it's kind of gotten its groove back. So here we are. This is back in June. So starting to get some interest back in the name again. It was much higher than that a long time ago, pre-COVID, if you will. All right, what else do we have in play? Clickstream, their new app's supposed to be out today. This is the penny stock, so probably don't need to be in here unless you know what you're doing. But yeah, supposed to release today, so drop from 10 cents down to 5 cents. So basically, it got cut in half. So expecting to see a big move up today. Don't go out and buy a whole bunch. Just saying that would surprise me if it stayed down here at the 5 cent level. All right, 6 minutes into the day, let's go ahead and look at the green and red. Look at our names in the green first. Looking at 5%, that must mean it's at $3. Let's see what that chart holds. 310. Look at that. A couple 100,000 shares. It's like a legitimate 310 too. So that's looking good. Let's get back to the chart. All right, Nicola, Baba, Delta, Love, both airlines. Starbucks, I already talked about. There's Boeing. Coal's getting some love. Tesla, DraftKings. DraftKings has been on fire. KNG. I looked at my basis on this, $11.12. Yeah, pretty happy with that. That for me, that's my personal best of the year. I'm hoping we see something like that out of Luckin too, to where it goes up to $10 or so. That's why we're in it. Be patient, please. Thank you for your patience, that kind of thing. It's a long way. Why is Twitter in the yellow? Maybe just because I clicked it. All right, LCA is Golden Nugget Online Gaming. That's been on fire, so it's taking a little breather. Workhorse, same thing. Sony, I like here. PlayStation 5 coming out. Disney, just a little bit in the red. Overall, the Dow is up 0.7, NASDAQ's up 0.2, and SPY is up 0.4. All right, let's check back on our trade. Last chance for comments in the chat or questions. So here we are with our trade. Kind of a do-nothing trade. I do like it. I would leave it in unless the market goes red. So if you see the, I would use the SPY that's up 0.35. If you see the SPY go into the red on the day, well, if you see this go red, I would kill this trade as it is. If this continues to be a green day, then I would leave the trade alive. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, ask in the chat. All right, that's all I've got for you today. I'm going to, again, go into this. Data is the new oil speech again, to record it since I missed it yesterday. So you heard this yesterday if you were here, all but one of you. So thanks for joining in today. And I will go off in the spiel here in a few seconds. And again, no trading out of Palantir or Asana yet. So probably around noon is what I'm guessing. Today's question of the day is, what does it mean when people say data is the new oil? Well, we're going to talk about not only what does that mean, but we're going to talk about how to invest in it. So when you think about oil and the importance of oil to the markets for the past several decades, let's go back into the 60s and kind of 70s is where I start. You know, I'm 50, so I kind of remember the 70s. I remember oil shortages, that sort of thing. I remember, you know, it was all about the Middle East for pretty much my entire career in the military from 91 on, obviously when Saddam invaded Kuwait. So it has been about the oil, and we've had to go over there and put lots of lives on the line and deal with people that we would not otherwise deal with because of all the oil that was in the Middle East. Well, obviously in the markets, there's been some names out there that have just made a killing over the years, because as we went from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, cars, got bigger for quite a while, to where we had the big gas guzzlers. And I even have a truck that you could accuse me of saying it's a gas guzzler, because you would be correct. But then they started working away from the big oil consumption vehicles into a little bit smarter version. So you had the Prius kind of came out, and we started making a move towards the electric vehicles. So when you think about the shift from away from oil has been going on for some time. And not only does it reduce consumption of the oil, but it is an increased reliance on technology as well, all the way up to data interpretation, data collection, data manipulation, and some AI efforts like self-driving, that sort of thing. So I'm tying that whole piece together using the car kind of as an example for walking through it today. And then at the end, I'll talk about several other names that you could be in to help you capitalize on the data is the new oil sort of investment thesis. So, and this is not stuff you get your 401ks. You can't go out and buy individual companies. This is where you either have to do it on your own or go through a pro. But getting into these individual names could be, nobody's got a crystal ball, even though it's kind of funny. Palantir is doing a direct listing today. And actually that word is borrowed from J.R.R. Tolkien as a all-seeing crystal ball. So interesting. I was going to mention that earlier, but there's no crystal ball out there. But I really do believe we are on the cusp of the next big wave in investing. So if you think of names like Peter Thiel is involved in both of the names that are doing direct listings today, we're where he was in Silicon Valley at the beginning of PayPal and Facebook and that sort of thing, in my opinion. So, this year I've been all about the electric vehicle names pretty much since the March 23rd lows, and we've made a ton of money with those. So we're still in those now, but I think, the 3, 4, and 5 times money has been made, but we still want to stay in those names for long term. But getting in on the data names as early as you can, which they're expensive, is the way to go. I truly believe that. So as we start to shift away from oil, we'll talk about Tesla. And, Elon Musk obviously is a visionary billionaire, has several companies out there, of which Tesla is one, and they all kind of revolve around, you had Solar City for a while. So, for electric power, and then, basically it was going to go under. So he gobbled that up into Tesla. So Tesla owns that outright now. But he has the boring company, which again is talking tunnels under the earth. The basic problem there is traffic congestion on the surface. So we have to go vertical one way or the other. And he says it's easier to go under, when really for years, we've all thought it would be the flying car. So, his bet is lower, and he's done some works there. You just Google Hyperloop and you can see some cool videos. He's got the Neuralink, which is tying, direct computers directly into the brain. He's got the Starlink we talked about yesterday. 11,943 satellites going into space to provide high-speed data worldwide. These are pretty impressive things, and it's all going toward the data theme, because all of these are heavy data dependent. Just in the EV space, we have the battery names, the plug and the blank. We've been in those. There's the truck names, Shell, Workhorse, Nikola's come under fire. We'll see if they actually get their Badger truck out or not. But again, these are EV names, but they also have a heavy AI presence because they're trying to do self-driving as well. But when you think about the self-driving piece into a car, there's a few names out there that are really specializing in this, and they're subcontractors. These are names you generally don't hear of too much. One of them is Aptiv, APTIV, and the other one's Luminar. And these are putting the brains into the EV, and that's what's doing a lot of the data acquisition. So when you think self-driving, and I have a few new vehicles out in the parking lot and in front of my house. Just to have a new driver is why I say that. So it looks like a parking lot now. But the lane protection, you start to drift out of your lane in the truck, or if I don't use my blinker like I should, I know, I hear you. But if I do start to switch lanes without my blinker on, even if there's no car there, it detects the lane. It not only beeps, It shakes the right side of the seat to let me know that I'm on the right, crossing the right side, and actually moves the wheel back towards the center of the lane. Now I can override that. It's not an aggressive move or anything, but enough to let me know if I was asleep that I'm about to leave the road. So, I mean, I think this technology is amazing. You know about the crash protection, the radar or whatever it's using off the front to determine the relative speed of your two vehicles, and giving you that big red box and the beep, beep, beep and brake now and all sorts of things to, to give you those warning systems. So really, really impressive stuff. And it's taken cars and it's putting them into basically a network type of mentality. So when you think of self-driving, well, if all the cars were self-driving, they would be networked and they would all have collision avoidance. If you think airliners and some of the military, most of the military now have the TCAS, the traffic collision avoidance system, that is always, you enter this, and once you turn your TCAS on, you are now part of a 3D network that is entirely invested in you not hitting each other. So it's really impressive. Tons of data streaming in and out, and tons of network things. So when you think other data of collection that's going on in your vehicle or in your smartphone, when you think of names like Google, Facebook, Apple, think of Google Maps and the data that is coming in. So when you get in your car and you drive to Kohl's to buy your discount retail stuff, you can tell you not only your arrival time, that's like, duh, that's basic GPS, but it tells you, it pings everybody's phone along the way, so it knows how fast everybody's going on average, and then it does some higher math that tells you, okay, there's a slowdown here, here's a better route, it'll save you a few minutes, gives you all those options, and it basically does that instantly. And when you think of the amount of data that's going back and forth from our cell phones, passively even, that's pretty impressive. And then you tack on Google Waze on top of that. I think Google bought them, I can't remember exactly, but now you have users able to input things like there's a cop here, or there is a abandoned vehicle here, there's a crash here, that sort of thing. Now you have humans reaching in and supplementing that data, which is probably the right answer. You don't want the data just run on its own, but having the humans also interact with it. And then you think, okay, COVID-19, they've talked about through our phones, and it tracks who we've been around, and some of this is really possibly infringing upon your rights, so there's some people pushing back, but the ability to do it is already there anyway, to be able to track who you've been around in the past 24 hours and then alert them about what proximity you've been to at least somebody else's phone. Obviously has no idea where the humans are, but assuming it's in your hand or in your pocket, it's a pretty good way to track all of that. You also think of, I bring up Apple here, and of course, that's one of my favorite names, and you just can't pry Apple out of my hands. Since the split, it's dropped 20%. That's technically a bear market. Is that a sell signal? No, that's a, hey, if you don't have enough Apple, it's time to buy more. I would say not yet, wait till after the election, but it depends on your personal situation, so do your own due diligence. But when you think of what Apple's doing, think of healthcare. Think of the Apple Watch. They're on the Series 5 or maybe even higher now, and it's tracking, the easy stuff that Fitbit does, but it's also tracking more difficult things like fall protection. If you remember back in the 80s, I've fallen and I can't get up. You wear this thing around your neck that nobody could get any of their relatives to wear anyway. You push a button and it alerts everybody. Well, now that's built into the Apple Watch, that good luck getting your folks in your family to wear the Apple Watch, but if they wear it, it does have fall protection in it and can send notifications. It has other health monitoring issues, which are only going to get stronger and better. And again, that's just a ton of data that's coming in or being collected on you if you're, anti-data privacy. We touched on Facebook targeted ads. Again, that's saving you time in your life. You may think it's annoying that you mentioned something in passing, and all of a sudden you get crushed with ads, but it's supposed to save you time and help you focus on what it is that you're looking for out there. As far as data management though, and this is really now, what have we had as far as managing data into getting what Palantir talks about, which is kind of transitioning into, Palantir and Asana are doing a direct listing today. I'm looking over here, they're still not open yet, but I'm waiting for that. But is how do you take the volumes of data that you have and manage it and make it actionable. So the example I will use from personal experience is I worked in 2012. I went overseas to the Middle East for a full year and lived over there. I was permanently stationed in the country of Qatar, just outside of the town of Doha, city of Doha. Actually, beautiful place, believe it or not. Gets a bad rap. The Middle East is not necessarily that beautiful, but that certain area is. And I worked in a communication air operations center. And we had 20 different countries we have air power flying all over, 20,000 square miles or whatever the numbers were. I don't remember exactly, but over Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're controlling all of that. We're also keeping eyeballs on Iran to see what's going on there, Pakistan, you name it, we're monitoring it. We've got airplanes out there. And of course we have all the ground forces on the ground in those different countries. And we also have the naval forces supporting that from the Persian Gulf. So we're tracking not only like a Blue Force tracker of where everybody is, but when I had 80 people that worked on the floor for me, and I sat up in a crow's nest, and you had a lieutenant colonel that has operational experience, so been to combat and all that, sitting up there in the chair. And the cells of those 80 people have anywhere between 4 to 8 people kind of in that cell. And when they have information that's flowing into them, they have a boss, and that boss is the synthesizer of that information and then up channels that to me. So really out of an 80-person floor, I'm talking to about 10 to 12 different people, all that have different information at different times. They're bringing that up to the crow's nest where there's an operator, which is the chief of combat ops. So you sit a 12-hour shift, and then you have an intel person and you have a lawyer right there. So you have everything you need to be able to make kinetic decisions. So kinetic is kind of code for being able to, kill a terrorist with a bomb or a bullet or a missile, however you want to choose to do it. But you have everybody right there and a whole system for taking this data up to one person. And then that one person then goes upstairs, or calls upstairs actually, and explains there's a full colonel sitting above, and a 1-star and a 3-star is the chain of command. And certain things have to go to certain levels. So synthesize, the reason why I bring this up and why I loved actually working over there is because it helps me synthesize volumes of information of financial data into actionable decision-making intelligence. So, and we had like 80 people in intelligence in the KAOC alone, in their own cell, doing the same sort of thing, feeding these different cells out there. So all this comes up, and then certain information you take up to the boss and you lay it right on the line. You're like, sir or ma'am, here's the situation we have. Here's our checklist. We've completed 7 of the 9 steps. If we had all 9, I would be the approval authority. We were missing these 2. Here's why we think it's safe enough to go kinetic on this particular individual. And then they make a decision based off of that. Well, that data points in the millions go up to that 2 or 3 sentence statement. So what Palantir says that they've been able to do is they've been supporting not only DoD, but CIA, all the different agencies that are out there in helping synthesize this and helping humanize it, meaning instead of humans in the loop at each point, of kind of doing the math for the humans and then presenting options to the humans. So I can't say they take credit for killing bin Laden. Again, that was May 2nd of 2011. They take huge credit for that. I don't know. I think Navy SEALs deserve credit for it. But I mean, I get how they market their ability to do that. But they've been around for a long time. They've never made any money. So there's a little, that should concern you as far as getting into the stock. But as far as sheer data management, that's where we are now. And I don't know what the future holds, but let's back it up. When you think of, like, if you're my age, when you were in college, it was Excel, right? You would put data into Excel. If you were really smart, you knew how to use like database. Well, I had some courses of that in college and went, okay, well, that's nice. But Excel was kind of what resonated with me. So that's where I did all my data management. And then when you went to present that to folks, you would turn that data over to Microsoft PowerPoint and then present it to your bosses as part of a briefing. Well, that's kind of old school, but I would tell you the military at least was doing that 7 years ago when I retired, still as a primary, was PowerPoint. And it's tedious, it takes hours upon hours, and you can often get lost in formatting instead of the actual data. So it wasn't the best system out there. When you think of investing in data, how did Microsoft do since 1980? Yeah, pretty good. Let's talk hundreds of percent, if not thousands of percent on the move up. So that's what we're trying to do with taking it to the next level. After Excel, yeah, thanks, Burner. Still PowerPoint. You're right. You're still plugged into the system. Now you're looking at Tableau came along, and Tableau software was kind of the best in the biz for, and I used to go to their roadshow every time they came to Austin, and I didn't really care what they were doing. I cared what they were going to do. You know, what's in the future. It's like what you're doing now is amazing, but what's in the future? You know, what's coming? And they eventually got bought because they were the best out there. So they got bought by Salesforce.com. When you think of Salesforce.com, think of enterprise level customer relationship management, database on steroids with information synthesis. I mean, it's really impressive. I don't use it personally. I use a one that's specifically designed for financial advisors, but it's amazing what these things can do. It's literally, you plug it in and it becomes your brain. Have a conversation with the client. I put that conversation, I take 3 notes, and I can real time from my phone, you know, I can pull to the side of the road and look in my phone when somebody calls me and say, oh, okay, I talked to them 3 years ago about starting a 529 for their kid. And I can remember it like that, which makes me appear a lot smarter than I actually am, because I'm relying heavily on data and technology to make me appear smart. So you had Tableau out there. Well, they got bought by Salesforce in 2019, so last year. So now Salesforce is kind of the biggie, if you will, in space. When you think of how that stock is done, well, it just got admitted into the Dow, what, weeks ago, maybe a month. It seems like it just happened, but it's probably been a month. So what's in the future? So why do I bring all that up is now Palantir is at least saying that it's going to be the future. So that's why it's doing a direct listing today. There's another company out there called Snowflake that is talking a big game. I don't really know, and I haven't used it, so I can't vouch for it, but certainly the stock's on fire. And then there's Asana that's out there. It's also doing a direct listing today, ticker ASAN. It's not open yet. But these are names of the future. Now, they're high risk, so they are not for everybody. Don't just go into Robinhood and start buying this stuff because you might get spooked out of it. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you buy something, if you get in the individual stock game, you need to think differently. This is not 401k stuff. This is not TSP. This is not what's my allocation to international bonds and blah, blah, blah. This is, I am picking a specific investable thesis, and I'm picking that thesis, and I'm going to hold whatever positions I attach to that thesis until I get paid if I'm right, which could take decades. And I don't want it to just double. No interest in it doubling. I want it to be the next Microsoft. I want it to go up 10, 20 times. That's why when you look at an Apple and how much it's gone up, it's just ridiculous, and I still wouldn't sell here. So you need to think about it differently. So if you take a stab into the market today, I mean, golf clap for getting in on the next greatest thing, because I think you should. However, if you buy it at 40 and it goes to 20, don't sell. Don't just, cry it out if you have to, but you're really looking at buying more or just chilling and holding what you got. You have to be ready. If you're going to hop on the coaster that's going to take you to the promised land, don't get right back off the coaster once you get on it. So again, if you need to talk to somebody, that's not for everybody to pull the trigger out at home. That's a kind of a professional level thing. But if you're following along with my podcast and thing, that's how I think, and that's what I like teaching folks out there. So if you are going to get into it, then hold it until your thesis is invalidated or just plain wrong. So there's times to leave a stock. I was in Starbucks for years. Starbucks went political. Their whole management team went political. It's like, okay, they're not focused on making money, making coffee. They're focused on changing the world and doing all this political stuff. It's like, yeah, sell until I get back to making coffee, which they've finally done. So that's what I have for you today. Thanks for listening. That was a little bit long-winded, but again, the investable thesis out there is data is the new oil. So if you're old enough to remember the days of the big oil companies, the Exxons, the Chevrons that are still barely hanging on, right? COVID didn't help these guys at all. BP, if you will, those are kind of yesterday's names. If you're in retirement and you live off the dividends, then that's what you're doing. But if you're looking to do capital appreciation, then you want to look forward, pick an investable thesis, and go with it. So that's all we have for today's show. Please reach out to me at steve@ototnow.com with any questions or comments. Thanks again for joining me, and here's to you fighting the good fight every day to be on time, on target with your financial goals. Thanks. Bye. All right, before we leave, if anybody's still up, let's go back to our trade. And yeah, booyah, boom, what's that? 3 there, you should be out of this trade. So that is our trade of the day. So -1 on this one to the left, SRGA. We hopped in the pennies, and it did not work for us, so we got out. We took our loss like we should. And then if you took this trade, you're up 3R, pretty easy trade when you look back on it. But the market went higher, so you held the trade. There's 3R, so we're up another 2R. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks again. Went over 9 o'clock for the first time ever. So see you guys back tomorrow morning.